From relative unknown in 2015 to the greatest ever in 2021. Dominance defined, history made, legacy left for the 5th straight time. Tia Toomey is the fittest woman on earth. Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Game Central. I'm Sean Woodland with Tommy Marquez, recapping the women's competition from the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games. And on top of the overall leaderboard, there was no surprise, but there was some genuine excitement beneath that.
Yeah, the women's division had a little bit of everything across the board. The greatest of all time, extending her legacy, some past podium finishers, re-emerging and reclaiming some past glory, as well as a youth contingent that gives a lot of excitement for the future years to come.
Let's take a look at the overall leaderboard after 15 events for the women, and Tia Toomey, no doubt there, 256 points clear of Laura Horvath, who finishes in second with 1,179 points. She was 80 up on Annie Thorisdottir, who returns to the podium. More on her in a second. Kristin, Holte, and Haley Adams rounding out the top 5. And Gabriella Magala is in 6th. And one of the youngsters that Tommy mentioned, Mallory O'Brien, finished in 7th. Tia Toomey just continues her string of dominance. She has now won 33 games events during her career. She never finished outside the top 6 in 2021. She won 9 events for the most dominant performance at the games ever. And when you look at her margin of victory in 2017, you remember how close it was, just 2 points. And then in 2021, 256 points. She had it wrapped up before the final event. And nobody is getting closer to her as she moves through her career.
And you read all those accolades, Sean. You could sprinkle in another record for the most times wearing the white leaders jersey, but she's not just resetting the game board at this point. Very much like an older sibling playing with his younger sibling, she's creating an entirely new game altogether, one that only she can win. And you look at the breadth of how she's won in the context of each one of these wins. She's won CrossFit Games with 12, 13, 14, 15 events in a single stage, 19 events over 2 stages. She's beaten 172 different women over 73 events with full fields, cuts to 20, cuts to 10, cuts down to 5. By CrossFit's very own definition, it's work capacity across broad time and modal domains. Well, Tia Toomey is that definition of fitness at the CrossFit Games, and she's still going.
Now, Laura Horvath finishes in 2nd place, and she was overshadowed by Toomey and by Annie Thorisdottir in 3rd. But when you look at her performance, it was extremely impressive.
Yeah, I think one stat in particular just encapsulates how impressive she was this season. She took home 78.6% of the points available. And why is that relevant? It's the highest of any 2nd place finisher in the last decade. You'd have to go back to Susan Clarke in 2011 to find a better one. In fact, her percentage beat out 2013 Sam Briggs, 2014 Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet, Katrin in 2015 and 2016, Tia in 2017, and she tied Annie in 2012. Oh yeah, all of those women won the whole thing. So in the absence of Tia, Laura Horvath's performance was equivalent to some championship level performances.
And the biggest story of the entire competition on the women's side was probably Annie Thorisdottir's resurgence and her return to the podium. She made her CrossFit Games debut 12 years ago in 2009. Since then, she has racked up 2 championships. She has now finished on the podium 6 different times, and she has competed at the CrossFit Games in 3 different decades. And we shouldn't be surprised that she wound up on the podium despite everything that she dealt with over the past year.
Let's be serious, Sean. I mean, the sport as a whole and the women's division in particular would not be where it is today without Annie Thorisdottir's contributions over the past 12 years. But if you look at her last 3 podiums, her comebacks have a theme. In 2014, she goes first, second, first on the final day to charge up into 2nd place. 2017, back-to-back 2nd place finishes to end the weekend, 5 of her final 7 in the top 5 to overtake Sarah for the final spot. This year, 2nd, 4th, 1st, 3rd, a 2.5 average finish through the stretch on the final day to take another podium spot. Annie Thorisdottir showed up to Aromas in 2009, this raw, talented athlete. We saw her go from her first muscle up now to a 6th podium. We've watched her grow up in front of our very eyes, and includes the birth of her first child. I'm just stoked for her to add another pit to her legacy.
Yeah, and heading into that final event, she was tied with Kristin Holte for that 3rd and final spot. Holte winds up finishing in 4th. And after the games, Holte took to Instagram to announce that she is retiring. This was her last season in individual competition. And Kristin Holte is an athlete who has gotten better with age. The best finishes of her career at the CrossFit Games have all come in the last 5 years.
Yeah, and I wish we would have known that this was Kristin Holte's final year, so we could give her a proper send-off on the competition floor like she deserved. But in reality, this is much more Kristin Holte's style. Just kind of lay low, keep her head down and work hard, and then ride off into the sunset. And even though she missed out on the podium, I would argue that this year was some of her finest work. Excluding 2019, where the cuts kind of skewed things data-wise, she had career best finishes as far as top 10s in a weekend with 10, and top 5s with 7, and 5 consecutive years she's finished 7th or better at the CrossFit Games. Only 2 other women can say they've done that, Tia-Clair Toomey and Katrin Davidsdottir, and that rightfully puts Kristin Holte in elite company.
Mallory O'Brien took 7th place overall at 17 years old. She was the youngest event winner ever at the CrossFit Games, won event number 4 on Wednesday night, and she proved that she's going to be here for a while.
Oh yeah, and it all started on day 1, right? Her battle with Tia-Clair Toomey in the thruster wall walk event really is the stuff dreams are made of. There are young women right now dreaming of being able to go toe-to-toe with the champ and somehow coming out on top. But given how talented and deep the women's field has been historically, the fact that she took home Rookie of the Year is significant. You look at the last 3 winners of the Rookie of the Year on the women's side: Haley Adams, Laura Horvath, Tia-Clair Toomey. It isn't just an award to give you a pat on the back. It's a stamp of approval for a long and successful career in the sport. Just to kind of give you some reference, when Annie first showed up on the scene back in 2009, Mal was 5. She has plenty of room to grow.
From one end of the spectrum to the other, I'm talking about the age group victors here in the competitions that we had in the Masters and the teenager category. Whitney Gallin takes the 35 to 39-year-old division. She's, of course, a former individual competitor at the Games. Kelly Friel out of the UK wins the 40 to 44-year-old division. Our own Annie Sakamoto, she brings home a gold medal in the 45 to 49-year-old division. Emma Lawson in the 16 to 17-year-old division, and Olivia Kerstetter in the 14 to 15-year-old division. Patty Bauer won her age group, and then Susan Clarke is like the Tia Toomey now of the Masters division.
Yeah, I think Susan Clarke has kind of stamped her claim on the best Masters athlete of all time. 5 times Susan Clarke has showed up to the CrossFit Games to compete, and 5 times Susan Clarke has won. She's had an average margin of victory of 57 points over those years, which is actually very wide considering that the Masters athletes go through fewer events total to try and build that margin. She's won multiple titles across 2 divisions. She's extended her record of 25 event wins at the CrossFit Games. If she shows up to the CrossFit Games, everyone else is battling for second, and that's a fact. And then you go to the other side of the spectrum with the young women and Olivia Kerstetter and Emma Lawson. I think Mal O'Brien's performance has our antennas up to look down to the teenage division and see where are these next stars coming from. Well, Emma Lawson wins the 16 to 17 division after finishing inside the top 10 at semifinals when she still has another year left in the teenage divisions as well. That gives credence to her potentially making that jump as well. And then you look to the 14 to 15, Olivia Kerstetter winning the 14 to 15 division. She snatches 202 pounds, lines up 212 on the bar. I was looking down from our desk, I watched that. She just barely missed 212. Those are the kind of numbers and the basis of strength that are gonna make you successful in the long term for this sport.
It is going to be a lot of fun to watch them mature in the sport and see, what kind of numbers they're putting up, 4 or 5 years from now, if they're already, starting those kind of numbers in the teenage divisions. This is the first year we had adaptive athletes compete at the CrossFit Games, and there were 3 different divisions for the men and the women: upper extremity, lower extremity, and neuromuscular. And for the neuromuscular division, a familiar name wins it in Shannon Ogar.
Yeah, the first Ogar to compete at the CrossFit Games. Shannon Ogar wins the women's neuromuscular division and, gets to lay her claim as the fittest Ogar in the family. But I was so impressed with her performance all weekend long. You look at some of the neuromuscular divisions, and one thing I was talking to some of those athletes about is you don't always get to see what their impairment is, right? It's something that's almost hidden to the naked eye. And for Shannon, she has, some vestibular issues, and the weekend opened with a 3-mile run. But what does she do? She throws an eye patch on to help right her vision a little bit, and she marches her way to a PR for her mile and the longest she's ever run since her impairment started to have a serious effect on her life. And now she gets to walk away with a gold medal. Just fantastic.
There were so many great moments in the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games, probably more than we've seen in past years. It's hard to pick one that really stood out, but what was the most memorable one for you?
For me, and the most relatable by far, has to be Annie Thorisdottir's 200-pound snatch. I mentioned earlier how Annie has basically grown up alongside of us in this sport. That means she has shared so much with us along her life's journey, including her struggles postpartum after giving birth to her beautiful daughter, Freya. And she also shared how she really struggled to try and reclaim her body because she felt like it wasn't her own. And in that moment, I think we all got to share with her that moment of her reclaiming her body and her believing that she could podium again. And for someone, like I said, who has shared so much on the competition floor with us, I just felt honored that we could share that moment with her and then watch her parlay that into a podium finish.
Yeah, that was a really special thing to get to see live, and you just got to love the expression on her face after she hits that lift.
We've all felt that.
Oh, 100% definitely have felt that. That is going to do it for this edition of Game Central and our recap of the women's division, and congratulations to everybody who competed at the 2021 NOBULL CrossFit Games in all of those divisions. The Miles to Madison series continues on August 16th, so make sure you keep an eye out for that on the CrossFit Games YouTube channel. For Tommy Marquez, I'm Sean Woodland. Thank you so much for watching, everybody.